the next point I had on here was change in the same themes in my life. So it was just really interesting with the project how I was really able to witness change in such a short span of time. You know, from one point where both my jobs were really frustrating and I was kind of getting overwhelmed, to then having a place where I mastered those skills and I was doing really great, to then having a completely different now than it was a year ago. Changes, but also it was interesting to kind of see how things stay the same, you know, different habits, whether it's like, oh, I'm gonna do all this stuff, and then I'd go back to just sleeping every day. So it's kind of a mixture of the same, but also a lot of change. So it's interesting to kind of see that sort of stagnant, but also growth. So we're never really alone in virtual reality, or more importantly, real reality, and how much I really love real reality. So I think no matter what you're going through in your life, whether it's good and you're like over the moon, or whether you're just completely, you know, down and feel helpless, you know, I think there is a sense of that you're never alone. There are people who feel the same ways or can relate to how you feel, have been where you've been, both in the good and the bad. You know, it's good to never feel alone. I think that idea too of virtual reality, there's this sense of connection. You know, people who watch these videos, you know, or any videos, or who, you know, comment on threads on social media, there's that idea of connection and a constant sort of community, virtually. And then in real reality, kind of same principles, in a much more real sense if you actually put in the effort to find them and to pursue that and put yourself out there and give of yourself. And I think in a lot of ways, like I said, I love real reality. Is there's just something so much more refreshing and connecting about real reality versus virtual reality. I think it's great, you know, yeah, I'm making these videos, this is amazing, like, you know, I can talk to people from, you know, Taiwan and like from, you know, India and from, I don't know, Australia and from England and from Paris. I can talk to people all over the world, and it's great, and that is great, honestly, especially, you know, if people go abroad and all these other stuff, that's great, but it's just not the same as being in a room with somebody, being able to make eye contact with them, being able to use both your verbal language and your body language in how you communicate with that person, and being able to connect. And it's just more, it's just, I can't explain it. It's like you're awake. Like I used to, a year ago, you know, just I'd always have my headphones on, block out things I didn't want to hear. Like if I'm on the train or I'm walking, like I just kind of think and like listen to music and get in a zone. And it's very isolating. And I found one day, like, it was one of the clips I was crying actually. I was so frustrated that I couldn't really connect with these people in my class. You know, I was staring at the walls, I was staring at my pen, I was staring out the window, and I just didn't make that effort to really connect with these people who I had class with and I had met every Monday night with for like a few months. Why couldn't I say hello? Why couldn't I make eye contact with these people? Like, why couldn't we have deeper conversations, or at least just small talk? Why didn't I put myself out there to make more of an effort, if that was a possibility? And yeah, I mean, you don't want to be like staring at someone for like 10 minutes, you know, no one's saying that, but like, I just feel like I felt disconnected, I felt isolated, and then one day I said, you know what, no, like, shortly after that, no, I'm not gonna do this anymore, no more headphones. And also my ears were like killing me, and there's a clip where I'm like, oh my gosh, my ears hurt so bad, and that's true, because I would put it up all the way. And it's destructive. It really is destructive. And I found that once I stopped doing that, I felt so much more at peace and awake. I can't really describe it. It's just you feel awake and more alert and engaged in what's in front of you. And if you really want to connect in that moment, you gotta really engage in what's in front of you. So I think that is really great, and I love reality much more than I do this sort of fake or temporary persona that you have that's sort of half there I mean, it's not to say for everyone. I think some people in communities, they actually know each other, they meet with each other, so they kind of work to form these communities, or personal connections beyond a virtual reality. But I think the majority of people, it's a different kind of connection that you have. And some people even say, oh, I can text better than I can talk to someone. And that's scary, okay? That is scary. That's not how things should be. And that's definitely not the point of those platforms. I mean, I guess you could say or argue that there were people back in colonial times that wrote letters better than they did talk to people. And some people actually are able to be more affectionate in writing than they are in person. So I guess you could say fair enough, but when it comes to a point where your whole identity is kind of absorbed into a technological device, that's when it becomes too far. Wasn't that far for me, but I definitely have observed other people who are at that verge, and I'm saying to myself, this isn't good for them. It's not good for anyone. So I think that there is something really refreshing about being in the moment and being in reality as it is. The best moments are unplanned and hard to catch or hold on to. Work on strengthening your brain to hold memories, your story. Our story intertwines with so many others. I've witnessed several clips where, I would be explaining what happened that day because it spontaneously happened. Life is unpredictable. The world's an imperfect place, so it's bound to do unpredictable things. That being said, it can work to both, a bad thing and, something bad unpredictably can happen, or something really great unpredictably can happen, and you're just like, oh my gosh, wow, I'm so glad I witnessed that. I'm so glad I was in the middle of that. Like I just didn't expect that to happen. So I think that that's great, and that's sort of, an amazing testimony to how life works and something that kind of goes beyond us, which is kind of cool, but also relates to us in the sense that we too are unpredictable and imperfect. Like script and press or technological forms, film of your life is very effective and it allows you to tell your story, and to have that as an artifact, as a capsule, but it shouldn't be your only capsule, and I think it's an accurate one because it doesn't really capture that unpredictability always. So I think that there is just something to really holding on to memories, however that is for you, whether it is the fact that you do have to take photographs or writing, or maybe you do have a film, but really kind of trying to remember as much as you can about things that happen and learning from the things that are bad. Being able to share that with others, I think, is a huge part of that, since our stories kind of intertwine. Time is short. That is true. Time is short. Never take it for granted or think what you are doing is a waste, unless it is bad and you know it, aka drugs, right? Or stuff like that, okay? Use those moments to grow, to change. This is your story. Make it a good one. You can make that choice. As hard as it is, the best ways to hold on to joy are prayer, lots of prayer, living in the moment, keeping the ones you love close, and giving of yourself to others every chance you get without gratification or expectation. And maybe the sun, the ocean, some flowers, and wine with good food. Something healing, connecting about sharing a meal. Have no regrets, learn to forgive others and yourself. My grandmother always used to say that. She used to say, it went by so fast, time goes by so fast. And I used to say the same thing. I know. And it's true, it really does. A day, an hour, a moment, it goes by very quickly as you get older. And it's funny how it doesn't when you're a kid. When you're a kid, it feels like ages. But as you get older, you notice that time really isn't ages. It's very short. And it's easy for us to take for granted or to think that we waste time. For me, right, several clips I've said that. But it's using those moments and me looking at those clips and saying, okay, well, that wasn't a waste. That probably wasn't the best choice. But now I can say, what can I do to change that so I don't make that choice again? And I think that that's where it becomes useful instead of useless. And I think you have to really work with what you have in life and what you're given. And, I think part of it is looking at these different instances. You can turn that into something very useful, you have that choice to change that. So we always make that choice, no matter what our circumstances are. And there's always going to be a choice. You choose how other people affect you. You can turn every negative into a positive, I think is the point, and you can make that choice. You can just choose to ignore it and sweep that under the rug and keep moving forward and don't let those things get you down, or just take every single thing someone says to you like it's be all end all. Really, it's between you and God in the end, not really you and man. I think, obviously, don't get me wrong, again, we connect with our families, we do for others, there is a connection there. You know, I think that we were created to be in communion with each other. But at the same time, being imperfect, you should only take a man's word so far. That's not to say don't trust nobody. Watch out for yourself. But it's to say more that you should trust God most, and then man. So don't really let their impressions of you affect you, because that's a fleeting thing. That's like emotions, that's like feelings. They go, they pass, they change when you decide to change, and how you respond to those impressions or criticisms. And in a way, it's their way of being insecure and yet hopeful, because they see something in you that is good and they're unsure of it. So they're kind of almost reflecting their insecurity by saying things like, well, why are you this? Or, oh, I don't know. You know, you might wind up like that. It's almost like they're like anxious that, oh my gosh, this person's going to wind up like that. So in order to reassure them that that's not going to happen, sweep that under the rug and keep moving forward. So we make all kinds of choices every day, and I think it's just always trying to make good ones. But don't be too hard on yourself if you make bad ones. It's being able to fall and then think about what I can do to get back up again, and make sure that I don't fall again in that way. And if I do, to know that I can keep getting up again. Hold on to joy in a moment in time is through prayer, it's through hope, it's through faith, it's through love. Those are the things that really are the key ingredients to a happy life. It's just constantly persevering with those virtues at your, I don't know, disposal or in your toolkit, I think is a better expression. And that's not always an easy thing to do, and you're not always going to have the right answers, and that's okay. And I think it's accepting that, accepting yourself where you are, but also not allowing that to just be enough. Constantly challenging yourself, constantly persevering, and using those things to get through those times and through any times, and just taking it easy. And I think if you have those things in a moment, you are able to experience joy. There's a weightlessness that comes with that, I think. Not to have regrets. I think it's really important to forgive yourself. That goes along with what I've been saying. Forgive yourself, forgive others, and don't have regrets. Acknowledge your mistakes. Look to grow from those mistakes, but don't, be hard on yourself or negative or have regrets about things that have happened. Because everything in life, even the bad things can be used to bring out a higher good. So it may not have been according to plan, but God has a way of sort of steering you back and bringing something good out of that choice, and giving you a realization of why that's bad, and using that weakness in that experience to bring you to a stronger place, to a better place, to a healthier place, and to possibly a higher purpose. So, don't ever be ashamed of yourself. Shame is something it should be felt, I should say, if it's leading you to a deeper remorse and repentance. But ultimately, you should forgive yourself in order to then do good. I mean, look at St. Paul, right? What do we choose with our actions? Do we choose to do what's right? Do we choose to do what's wrong? And how do we make the most out of our circumstances and out of our situations in life? Don't have regrets. Forgive yourself. Forgive others. Otherwise, you can never really love someone. You can't move on. And you'll never really find joy in your life.